No Will Johnson for the Arizona Cardinals again this week. Can Jonathan Gannon find a way to pick his defense off the map? Plus, Jacoby Brissett, were those fake numbers last week? Can he outduel Trevor Lawrence? PHNX Cardinals pregame show starts now. Hello and welcome in live from Studio K. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is the former Arizona Cardinal wide receiver playmaker, Brittan Golden. It's the PHNX Cardinals pregame show ahead of the matchup today. Jacksonville heading to Glendale. Want to remind everybody, hit that like button. Bo Brack from State Farm Stadium going to join us just a couple minutes. Noah Man crushing it behind the scenes today. Our presenting sponsor today, like all football Sundays, our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com. We're back at Gila next week as the Cardinals take on Tampa Bay. They're going back-to-back Florida teams, and today it's all about the Jaguars. And Brittan Golden, it's been a hot minute since we caught up. Cardinals fresh off an embarrassing two-game slate against the NFC West. First, a shellacking against the Seahawks, and then last week, very much a no-show against the 49ers. Is this just a byproduct of the division? How do you break it down with what you've seen so far?
Well, I mean, you got to understand that the NFC West is one of the toughest divisions to play in football. And when you have the teams like the Rams are playing great football right now, the Seahawks have probably arguably the best defense in the league right now. The 49ers have played really well considering all the people that they've lost, right? They've still got the playmakers on the opposite side of the ball. McCaffrey and Kittle's back. They got Purdy back. It's a tough division to play in, but at the same time, handing off back-to-back 40 burgers to two divisional opponents, like you've, as a coaching staff on both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively, or I guess all three, special teams-wise, like you've been outcoached tremendously in this division, and it's starting to show. And this is another one of those weeks where it's like, if you allow the Jacksonville Jaguars to come in here and put 40 points on you again and get embarrassed 3 weeks in a row, like, I mean, we've said it for the last month that somebody needs to be fired at this point. I mean, if you allow Jacksonville to come in here and light up the scoreboard and beat you, give you belt to ass, as they say, for the third week in a row, like it's got to happen. Like you've got to just take everybody and just say, find a new job.
The barometer is so low, it's like you are not allowed to be non-competitive today. Let's jump into our inactives, and we've got a couple unfortunate names on this list. So earlier this week, it looked like the likes of Trey Benson, who was activated off PUP, and Will Johnson were going to be, looks like goes for this week. They practiced this week. Then we got tipped off that Trey Benson was not going to play. And then Will Johnson, who had been trending toward playing, I got word this morning, like, Will Johnson, they're probably going to hold him out again. And then you've got people like Donnie Drew reporting he didn't look good in pregame warmups. So no Will Johnson, but we do have yes to Bo Brack here on a PHNX Cardinals pregame show as we're jumping back from our inactives here. So, Bo, a pretty significant loss for the Cardinals today. It had trended toward Will Johnson playing all week. And then, I had gotten tipped off this morning, no Will Johnson. So what can you tell us? Why do you think this change was made? Is it a byproduct of the Jags and their passing game?
Probably a little confidence that they can do it without, right? Really the focus is going to be slowing down that running game. They ran the ball 47 times in their dominating win over the Chargers. But I think it's more just kind of take your first-year player that you want to invest as more of a long-term play in Will Johnson and get him up to speed. You still have, next week being the opportunity to kind of really show that not putting him on the IR was the right move, right? He now missed his third consecutive game, and he was close. So it looks like he can get going here in week 4, and it doesn't look like it's a complete, misstep by not filling that roster spot and having him IR.
Yeah, the Cardinals, they need some positive momentum. We thought, Bo, when we previewed the game on Friday, it's like, okay, the rookies, let them go out there, let them get a victory for this fan base. So no Will Johnson, but they will have a slew of other players on display, including their quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. Number one here on the Birdgang Blitz on the pregame show. Fool's Gold. So, Brittan Golden, last week, Jacoby Brissett, an NFL record, 47 of 57 for over 400 yards. I've dubbed him, he's like the Joe Flacco of the NFC, right? And again, he can make the throws that are there. A lot of people quick to point out, rightfully so, that a lot of those throws came when the game was well in hand. Niners were up by 3 scores. What's your assessment of Jacoby Brissett right now? Like, I know there's a segment of the fan base that's like, I want no part of him starting for this team next year. And there's another sense that, well, let's see how he performs down the stretch. We've had 5 games. What are your thoughts?
I mean, thought-wise, if you were looking for a quarterback that's going to stand in the pocket and deliver it, that's the one you got, right? I mean, it's looking forward. Nobody can really predict that Jacoby Brissett is going to be the starting quarterback for next season, right? This is not something that everybody's like, oh, yes, gung-ho. I understand people are like, no, I don't want that. But, like, he was brought in to be a backup in where if Kyler Murray gets hurt or your starting quarterback gets hurt, he can come in and fill the void. And he's done that, right?
Yeah.
And it's to say that he's played bad is, he hasn't played bad. He hasn't played great. But in a lot, like you said last week, like I was, face deep in a bottle of tequila in Mexico, so I wasn't really watching football. But it was like I saw the numbers and I was like, this man threw for 457 yards and you only managed to put 22 points on the board. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. So a lot of that is, I don't want to call it fool's gold, for instance, because he made the passes, but it's garbage time. And it's even if a lot of those plays were done in the middle of the game where I'm not going to say there was an opportunity because of the score, but like, that's a lot of yards to not get any points out of.
Right.
So you can't sit here and say that Jacoby Brissett is bad for this football team, because if you're going to look at offensive production, he's put a lot of yards on the stat sheet. They've put points up. It's just an issue. Like, you can make the claim both ways, right? Going back to Kyler with Jacoby Brissett, but it's just, you can't say that he's losing you football games.
And I think that's the biggest thing, Bo, is like, what did you expect? I think we were maybe a little bit greedy after those performances against Indianapolis and Green Bay, where it's like, okay, like maybe you can keep this team competitive over the course of the rest of the season. I think it's much more a byproduct of like, if the rest of the Cardinal team, the offensive line, the skill players, the defense specifically, is going to wet the bed, like Jacoby, it's not fair to say, hey, Jacoby, go out, duel, some of these quarterbacks that have been entrenched as starters for a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely unfair. And then it's also, and he's a product of this as far as them having to chase points. It feels like since the jump, since he took over the starting role back in Indianapolis, I mean, you're facing double, 2 possession deficits here that you have to rally your team back from constantly, it feels like. And, I asked him about that earlier this week. Does it feel like chasing points? What would a fast start mean for you? He's like, hey, like we're always chasing points. But like when you look at the context of last week, it's like this was a close to 1 possession game and they miss a field goal. And then they've got an interception where you've got 2 guys running the wrong route. And then you've got another interception mixed in there. And then you've got the fumble at the goal line. So like 4 of the 5 possessions that they come away without points,
right?
It's self-inflicted wounds. And it's like, if you look at Jacoby Brissett, especially like those 2 interceptions, like I think you can make the case that he's not even totally at fault there. But just overall as an offense, if they can get away from the big-time mistakes to put yourself in the hole, what's this offense going to look like? I don't think we've even gotten a sense of that. But, I think in the what he's been tasked with, where he's just trying to keep this thing afloat, he's done an admirable job. But as far as the jury being out and, like, can he be, at the very least, a bridge beyond 2025, I think that continues. He has to make his case for that.
Yeah, no guarantee. I think the Cardinals, if you took them aside privately and asked them, who do you think could be your franchise quarterback or at least your starter in 2026, they wouldn't know. We just feel very confident it's not going to be Kyler Murray at this point. Let's look on the defensive side of the ball as we continue here on a pregame show. This defensive line that looked so good against Dallas, and Dallas, give them credit, has performed well up front. We thought that this would carry over, Brittan, for the rest of the year. It's not a complete indictment of the likes of Josh Sweat and Calais Campbell, but anytime you're giving up the kind of rushing yards that this team is giving up, the kind of explosive plays, wide open players on the back end, like this defensive line, especially with no Will Johnson today, it has to have that kind of performance that has just been so inconsistent with this team, where Sweaty J's getting his, Walter Nolan, right? Like no Baron Browning. Okay, let's see something from Darius Robinson. This was supposed to be like the strength of this team. And unlike other segments of the roster, there aren't really any injuries to speak of here. Like you really have no excuse up front not to get after Trevor Lawrence in this game.
No, I agree. And I think that's like a topic that we've discussed, every week in the pregame show, talking about this defensive line has got to find ways to create havoc. And aside from that Cowboys game, right, you saw it. You guys were in the backfield. They were sacking Dak Prescott, right? They were forcing bad throws. They were doing stuff like this and getting off the field. But aside from that game, this defensive line hasn't done any of that, right? I mean, you had Walter Nolan's big game coming out, right? And he played well. He still played well in the trenches, since he's been in the lineup. But it's just the fact that the guys you brought in free agency would paid big money to come in here and to rush the quarterback and to create havoc in the backfield. It's not consistent. It hasn't been consistent all season long. And until you can do that, you're going to continue giving up big plays, because now these quarterbacks are just sitting in the pocket knowing that I've got 3 to 4 to 5 seconds back there to throw the football. I can let something develop. It's really hard as a DB to cover a receiver for 3, 4, 5 seconds without getting some type of holding or, a pass interference penalty. So, I mean, if this defensive line can't figure out ways to generate pressure again today, hey, Trevor Lawrence can gash you. He can do it. He's got the arm. He's got the talent. He's got receivers around him. He's got running backs in the backfield around him that can help, right? So it's a thing that we talk about every single week. But if this defensive line, this front seven can't find ways to generate pressure, you're going to look at another game where we're sitting here saying, how did this team put 40 points on us, right? Why are we getting smoked again for the third week in a row? Like, this is one of those things. The defensive line is the key to this defense.
Bo, I would attest that even more important than an offensive showing the rest of the year, you have to be able to sell people in January with Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rollis locks to return that, hey, this is something we can hang our hat on. Like, look how we played the last 2 months of the regular season. Because you're going to have to do a hell of a sales pitch, greasy car salesman style, on this offense, this run game, the offensive line playmakers, Drew Petzing's absent. Like, there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting that's going to need to be done in the form of like offseason pressers to fool people offensively or to convince people. We can't. Right. I don't have the appetite for that defensively.
No, I think Brittan can attest to this because he was on a team that had the ability to do it in all three phases. Is stack consistent drives together on both sides of the football. Like, we can see a lot of empty calories offensively and defensively. You see the sacks, you see the pressure numbers, but you don't see it drive in and drive out. You see one drive, they force the 3 and out, or they force the turnover. And then the next, they're like hot butter with a knife. They're getting cut up. And it's really, you're not seeing the consistent performances. They're not getting off the field. I'd like to see a couple, maybe back-to-back drives where we get Calais, Walter Nolan on the defensive front. Like, that's the best group. And they are so hell-bent on having this rotation. It's like, when you see that second group, when you see like D-Rob and Dante Stills and PJ Musafir, that seems to be where they can reestablish the run. And you're seeing these big, gaudy rushing numbers. And we talk about getting pressure on Trevor Lawrence and Sam Darnold and just like rinse and repeat, just change the quarterback's name. Like, yeah, that's all a great theory. But like, when you're getting gashed up front consistently and they're getting into these like second and third and manageable, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, you got to be able to get off the field and consistently slow down the running game. And they just haven't been doing that the last couple games.
I want to jump ahead, Noah, to our Jonah Williams conversation here on the Birdgang Blitz. Goodbye, Jonah Williams. He is officially done for the season on injured reserve, and his Cardinal career likely done as well. And Brittan Golden, we broke it down at nauseum last week. Kelvin Beachum came in, looked much better. Even Josh Fryer, the undrafted rookie tackle from Ohio State. I hate to dog on a player when they're injured. I hate to, kind of throw dirt on a guy who did not perform well. But I just believe that this is like addition by subtraction at the highest tenfold. I know inside that organization, the Cardinals feel like their offensive line has regressed individually as players. And you could scoff at that. The coaching has not been good either. but Jonah Williams was the poster child for that. Like when they signed him, they felt like he had several good years left. Just come in and be a solid contributor, and we'll elevate you. And Paris is going to carry the load at left tackle. Not only was he unplayable toward the end, it's like I can't remember a worse free agent offensive line contract for this team, given the fact that it's the two worst combinations. When you played, you were terrible, and then you didn't play a lot, and then you fooled the team in believing that when you weren't available, that you could be available and it could be a plus for this team. I remember all of last year. It was like, well, just wait till Jonah Williams comes back. I'm like, I think Kelvin Beacham's doing okay. And then this entire offseason, it was like they could only fill so many holes. I get it. But, man, Josh Simmons on this team, he wasn't available. I get it. But to me, it's like this is, Bo, I'll start with you, probably one of the biggest addition by subtractions I can remember, given the fact that you can make an argument Jonah Williams lost them games this year.
Yeah, he set you back, right? I mean, it was a consistent liability, and it's really unfortunate. But now you understand like where you need to maybe add and help with protection when Jacoby Brissett's going to drop back there, and if it's Beach, if it's Fryer, it's just that sixth offensive lineman. It's going to have to be just an offensive lineman working together here, where he's just like, he felt like it was just a turnstile, and that was just going to be how it was, and you just have to overcome that. But now it's just like, hey, we're going to get these guys in there. We feel like we have a chance if we can work as a cohesive unit. We'll see. I mean, it's just, I think it is what it is, and you just got to move forward now. That's going to be a hole that needs to be, visited this offseason, be aggressive in filling, and just it was overlooked or just accepted for far too long.
I mean, we remember the Dallas game, Micah Parsons, like that felt, and again, where I won't put blame on Jonah is that in games where he needed help, like they didn't give him help. And like you have to be cognizant of that. Like Jacksonville's got Josh Allen, the pass rusher. They've got Armstead, who's a good player, 5.5 sacks this year. Like they have to be more like consistent with the notion that, hey, this is not the unit from 2 years ago. We're not as well coached. We have to give players help. And I think they probably could have given Jonah Williams more help. They definitely could have.
No, I agree. I think as a whole, the offensive line has been atrocious all season long.
Yeah,
right, as a whole, and that starts in the coaching. Like that coaching has been bad. Being poorly coached turns into poor play, right? Because there's nobody can help you get out of the slump that you're in. There's nothing.
Yep.
Obviously, nobody's saying anything. Nobody's watching enough film or can study or can tell you what you're doing wrong. They're just putting the same product on the field week in and week out. So that starts with the coaching staff. But I agree on the same side of you literally watched Micah Parsons line up opposite of Jonah Williams, right? And he went out there so he could see, he saw Paris and he said, I might could win 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 of these against Paris, but I can go to the opposite side and I can go 10 straight plays on the defensive side and I'm going to win all 10 of them.
Yep.
And he did that, right? So it just got to the point to where it was like, as an offensive coordinator, you are not recognizing that the best pass rusher on the field is going against your worst offensive lineman at right tackle. And he is dominating. And he is in the backfield the entire time. And he is changing the game single-handedly. And you're not going to do anything to help him out. We're not going to use a chipper. We're not going to keep a tight end in. Like, I don't care if you're putting in the third string tight. Put somebody. All you have to do is get a hand on him. Slow him down. That's all you have to do. But you did not see a need in doing that. And it came at the cost of getting your quarterback just completely abused.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like that's just been a thing that they've done all season long, right? You went from Kyler. He got abused back there. The thing about Kyler was he was quick enough and fast enough to move. Right? And Jacoby Brissett can't move.
Yeah.
He can throw and he's going to sit and deliver, but at the end of this season, Brissett's going to wake up the morning after he knows he doesn't have to go to practice or play anymore, and he's going to be in pain because he got absolutely abused every start he took, and his coaching staff did nothing to help him out. Right? So, I mean, as much as we're going to talk about this offensive staff, offensive line, offensive coordinator, receiver room, it doesn't really matter what you're talking about. It has been awful, and nobody has done anything to help this team out.
Yep, and let's talk about the coaching staff. Lastly, here on the Birdgang Blitz, for the fans, Your season, by and large, is a lost one, which is crazy given the expectations of this team before Thanksgiving. And now you've got a game in which we assume, and Bo, you'll attest to this, not many Jaguar fans in attendance. This is a team in Jacksonville that's overachieving with a first-year head coach. And the Arizona Cardinals are the only team in their division likely not to make the playoffs this year. So we got a lot of games left this season, and there are a lot of things for the Cardinals to play for. But this game in particular just feels different, where I think a lot of Cardinal fans certainly expect them to lose. But even to me, like a loss, a non-competitive loss, would be just such an indictment of a continuation of what we've seen so far this month.
Big time. I would continue to just kind of dig the hole a little bit deeper. And, you can't, like, the size of the shovel you have right now to kind of save face is way too small to get you to the end of the season, even with stringing together a bunch of wins. But you got to start somewhere. And like, we've got all these atrocious stats where they haven't beaten a, over 500 team. And but how many times? Their last 9 games, 10 games. And you've got that opportunity right here. You can start to kind of try to turn the narrative. And the only way you can do that is putting together a good performance, taking care of the football, protecting Jacoby Brissett, not giving up, an onslaught of points in, 7 series, giving up 5 scores. It's just, you got to play better football. As Baldy told us on Wednesday, this is a better team than the results that we're seeing and the non-competitive performances are. So it's going to take a collective effort. I know that's like a maybe over romantic idea of how it should be, but it's also reality. Like, the only way they're going to get out of this and change perception, or try to, and just change the tide of they're overmatched in all of these categories, and they're just we just can't wait to get to the next, greener pasture. They're going to have to be able to change that up here in the next 7 weeks. And this is the most recent performance. So let's see what they can do. If it looks like the last 2 weeks, it's just going to be a further indictment.
You have to give people something to hold on to. And unfortunately, a lot of people have already disengaged with this current regime. And they've got nobody to blame but themselves. They've made their decisions as it relates to Kyler and some of the personnel. And speaking of personnel, like, these are your players. You pick these players. These are players that you drafted, you targeted in free agency. This Jacksonville team is missing Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. Trevor Lawrence has almost as many picks as he does touchdown passes this year. I mean, it's a team that can run the football and get after the passer. It's like they are in a position where, okay, they're traveling cross country after blowing out a good Charger team in their building. Like, stand up today and show your fans that, hey, we're going to turn this around, and it starts this week. Otherwise, you're just going to fall forward into ineptitude, and people are going to say, I'm done. I'm washing my hands of it. Give me everything new in the new year. We're going to jump into Tap That App, but I want to remind everybody, just because the Cardinals are having a tough season doesn't mean you can't rock some of the best game day threads in the business via our friends at Rally House. Check out one of their 3 locations, Tempe, Mason, of course, Glendale. I'm going to tell you right now, Rally House is the go-to for a little Trey McBride action, a little Marv action. We expect Marv to hopefully be back next week. So, again, check them out right now. Helmet, jersey, pants, socks. It's game day threads with our friends at Rally House. And it's our betting threads, for lack of a better term. It's a pregame pick here on a PHNX Cardinals pregame show. Place a $5 bet. After a $10 deposit, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. It's never ordinary. Check out our friends at Bet365. How about this? I cooked this up in the lab this morning. This might hit in the first half with the way Jacoby Brissett has been slinging the rock. You can get plus money on Jacoby Brissett going over 260 passing yards, but why stop there? Let's add in a little Michael Wilson, 6+ receptions on the day. And then, of course, Sweaty J plus money on a sack. All that parlayed together. $675 with our friends at Bet365. Again, never ordinary. You got to be 21 years and older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov for more info. Hit that like button. Around the room, final predictions, thoughts, comments, concerns. Brittan Golden, your official prediction. Cardinals getting the dub today, or does it continue the season from hell for Cardinal fans?
I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt on making me sound wrong on here. So I think they need to go out there. You just need to be sound offensively and defensively. You got to do all the right things. You got to put the ball in the end zone. Field goals ain't going to help it for you. Right. So, I mean, we've discussed this for however many, what we're in week 12, week 13. I don't know what week we're in right now. We're getting whooped. But at that point, it's just you got to find ways to move the ball. And when you move the ball, you have to put the ball in the end zone. And on the defensive side, you have Sweaty J on the, on your bet pick today. These guys have to find ways to generate pressure. You've got, I don't know if Rollis is scared of blitzing, but he's got to send more than 4 people at time, more times than not tonight or this afternoon, and just try to find ways to disrupt that backfield.
Bo, you had them winning. You still feel that way?
Yeah, I think that this is kind of going to stop the bleeding a little bit in the interim because we look forward. There's aren't a lot of winnable games going forward. But look, I think if you can turn the clock back to week 2, how you started that game against Carolina, same team that came in the league the same time as Jacksonville, create the same kind of problems from Trevor Lawrence that you did for Bryce Young that could set you up to play with a lead. We'll see what Jacoby Brissett in this offense could look like, playing with that lead. Can they run the ball in the second half? Like that's all kind of unknown, but I think this is an opportunity that they've been, looking for going up against some tough teams the last couple of weeks.
These are the games where I assume Jonathan Gannon before the year, you got a coaching advantage. Duval, a Jacksonville team that's middling. You have to win this game. I picked them to lose on Friday. I will stick with that with the hopes of being pleasantly surprised. Let's jump into our super chats. $5 from Shaft, still in chat prison, but I'm here with the watch along with the rest of the gang. We appreciate you, Shaft. By the way, I'm playing Bo today in the Die Hard League. Good luck, Bo. So big ups to our guy Shaft. And then Chaz,
right.
$1.99 to Health and Wealth Fells. We appreciate that. And thank you so much, Chaz. Same to you, my friend. I want to remind everybody, hit that like button, subscribe to PHNX Sports. Myself, Brittan Golden, and GM Espo are going to be live for our watch-along throughout the duration of this game. So if you want to love watch, hate watch, anything in between, jump on the stream on YouTube here. And then, of course, our pre- and post-game show and halftime included. Bo's going to join us from State Farm Stadium following this one. Big thanks to everybody here in the chat or otherwise. Arizona Cardinals kickoff in a matter of minutes in Glendale, Jacksonville at AZ. Can Jonathan Gannon get a much-needed win? We're going to find out. See you on the watch-along. Take care, everybody. What was that noise?